Justin Papadakis, thanks for joining me, man. Live from JFK Airport today. He's a man on the move, so I just appreciate you taking some time here, Justin. It should be exciting.
Joe, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, man. So, listen, I'm just super curious to hear like about the story of what you're doing. So, you know, you're on the road right now. I think you said spend probably 3 weeks of the month maybe on the road at this point. Just beating the ground, man. Just trying to get out there and develop new opportunities. So maybe if you could just explain a little bit of the soccer background. So I think your dad is an immigrant, right? And then you ended up going to Duke for soccer. So we'd love just to start there, man. Hear about that a little bit.
Yeah, so take you back, and my dad, who's our CEO, he grew up in Greece in a really poor family, and they decided to immigrate to Winnipeg, Canada, when he was around 13 years old. And as a lot of immigrants didn't have a lot going for him, didn't have money, didn't speak the language, but what he did have was that he happened to be very good at soccer. And that got him into a high school that he couldn't afford, that got him into a college he couldn't afford, and then ultimately got him into a law school because he was able to coach the team. He went on to have a very successful career, but it definitely was because of soccer gave him the opportunity. So growing up for me, I had it pretty easy, but we always, knew in the family that soccer had this superpower to change lives. It certainly changed our family's life. And so we always wanted to give back to the game that gave our family so much. And my dad and I were in LA at LA Live when it was opening up around 2008. And we saw the impact that a stadium acre development could have on the real estate and the area surrounding a development. And so we thought, wow, if this could happen in LA, right, a very thriving market, and there is always that chicken the egg. You need people to have bars and restaurants. You need bars and restaurants to have people. So how do you break that? And the answer is you need a catalyst. And stadiums are a catalyst that can drive transformational development. And so we said, wow, if we can take that concept and do that for soccer, we think that we can build a lot of great stadiums. We can have a lot of a great fan experience, and importantly, we could transform our cities and drive massive economic development. And so that was the original thesis. And the other kind of big innovation my dad had at the time was to break out of the major minor league construct that existed in American sports. And so, in baseball, you have Major League Baseball and minor league baseball. And so soccer around the world isn't structured that way. The Spanish league isn't the minor league to the Premier League. The Premier League has larger budgets generally, but the Spanish league isn't a minor league, or the German league or the Greek league. And so we thought if we could, really create great stadiums, the MLS might have bigger stadiums than us, might have larger payrolls generally, but we could break out of that construct and really accelerate the growth of the game that gave us so much. And so that was the thesis. And just as a data point on where we are in the journey, last year, our championship final on CBS outrated the MLS final, and they had New York versus LA, the two largest media markets, and on a better time slot on Fox. And so I think we can see that the game is progressing so much on both the men's and women's side, and that if we can have a really compelling product, that we can be in the same peer group as the MLS and as the NWSL. So a lot of ground to cover there, but that was the thesis, and that's where we are in the journey so far.
Yeah, man. No, it's interesting. So I admittedly I haven't really followed soccer too much. I'm here in Philadelphia, and it's funny what you're saying just about the kind of the infrastructure in the stadium, because I'm sure, have you been to the Philadelphia Union Stadium before down in
I
Chester?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I was just reading an article that came out a couple years ago, but they were saying that the economic impact of building around that stadium is, I think they said $90 million to the surrounding area, which is Chester, which is not a great area at all. So it's just it's interesting, man, that you guys are kind of thinking, all right, let's build these stadiums, and then the fans will kind of come out and and really support. So I guess because you guys are expanding into Albuquerque, I think you already are in now. Is Boise one of them as well that's coming soon? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Just like how do you think about that? The like building these stadiums and then growing, because they're not in huge cities, right? Like that's not really the target market. But I'm just curious how you balance that, like the a huge city, and then it might be easier to drive some of these fans out versus almost building that first and then a lot of fans coming in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great question. And so my previous role was in shopping center development, so building Walmarts and Targets and shopping centers, and so their shopping center business is very demographically oriented, right? So you look at the household income, the population, the corporate base, and a lot of that really drives what the expectation is on the success of the shopping center. So going in, I thought that that was going to be, the same really high correlation. But what we're seeing in the market is that's actually not the case. So having a great stadium in a great location and a great ownership, those are really the determining factors for success. You mentioned Albuquerque, one of our highest attended teams, and they say out of 50 states, they're 51st in everything: household income, population, corporate base. You mentioned another market that's an expansion market that'll be opening up soon in Boise. I think they just passed 3,000 or so season ticket sales, and they don't start for a year. And so what we're really seeing is the I think soccer's different in a couple ways. First, it's unlike baseball, basketball, football, hockey, where the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, they're the number one leagues in the world by 100 miles. Soccer's different, where the MLS isn't in the top 10 leagues in the world, and so what we're seeing is fans want to support their local club. So if that's in Albuquerque, or if that's in Boise, or if that's in Greenville, and then they also want to watch the best in the world, which might be Manchester United or Real Madrid or AC Milan. And so that kind of barbell approach is really driven our strategy. Where, as you mentioned, initially we went after, largely speaking, there's some exceptions, markets 30 through 60, and then 60 through 90. And now we're also working on 90 through 100, but we're also really focusing on the top 10 markets, but with a different twist. So in the Antelope Valley in Los Angeles, where we're not trying to be Metro Los Angeles's soccer team, because that's a huge area. We're really hyper focusing in on the Antelope Valley, which has 500,000 people, and we're hyper focused. For that team is hyper focused on their community, and that means all of their philanthropic efforts, all of their marketing efforts, all of their youth soccer efforts are just in the Antelope Valley. And so you can see they're in their first season, but great example of when you can really hyper focus. We have, they have two great MLS teams there with Galaxy and LAFC, but they are trying to be all of Los Angeles' team, and so their attention's really spread over a lot of communities within the Los Angeles MSA. And what we're doing is going more hyper local, and I think that's responding. If you go to an Antelope Valley game, they're amazing, they're electric, and they're really proud that they do feel part of the Los Angeles community, but they also feel a great sense of pride for the Antelope Valley, and this team represents them. And so I think it's just a great example of how we're approaching the opportunity in soccer, and why I think so many fans that might not be soccer fans, might not follow the sport in a great way, in a deep way, but what they are is that they really care about the community. They really care about having great live entertainment that they can go with their family and friends. And then, especially in the case of Los Angeles, where not everyone has the time or resources to go 2 hours each way to an LAFC game. And so when you can have a first class fan experience 10 minutes from your home, having a 3-year-old and a 18-month-old, it's those commutes are hard, and taking the kids in and out are hard. So when we can provide first class entertainment and first class soccer to our communities, I think that's what you're seeing this overwhelming response.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. Yeah, happy belated Father's Day, by the way. Father's Day yesterday. Yeah, it's where you're saying that though. I'm just curious. Like obviously, you want to tap into these probably underserved or smaller markets, but you still want it to make sense for you guys, right? At the same time, right? I mean, you still want to be able to drive revenue for the entire league. So how do you identify that next emerging market? Is that do you lead with the most valuable real estate possible, or is it population size? I'm just wondering how you guys approach that.
Well, I think it's another, I think innovation that my dad came up with when we started USL, and we're the only league to have a large real estate department or a real estate department at all.
Okay.
And so what we've done is we go out and structure our stadium deals and work with our city, county, and state partners in some cases for 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and put the stadium deals together. And so stadium deals are hard. Stadium districts are even harder. But when we can really work with our municipal partners and really build that trust and really provide the expertise, the financial resources to help put the deals together quickly, that's where we can have on a very expedited manner because we're working on about 70 deals at once. And so they're all in different spectrums of where they are. But I think we've gotten really good at putting these together. And so now you start to see, in 2025, probably the largest growth of professional soccer ever, or professional soccer in anywhere around the world, happening in 2025, because all these deals that we've been working on for 2, 5, 7, 10 years are going to start coming to fruition. And so I think it was a different approach that we had to developing these stadiums that's really leading and providing the foundation for this tremendous growth.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So what goes into a stadium deal? Like you said, it's super complex. I mean, I'm sure you could talk about that for an hour, but where do you start kind of with the stadium deals? Is that you start with the cities? You said municipalities. How does that work?
So it definitely always starts with our municipal partners, because stadium deals are too hard to put together if you don't have the support of your municipal partner. And we have too many other deals that have it. If so that is for us critical that we have a city partner that's really engaged in the process and really sees the value that it's going to bring to their city. And so we look at land, and I think it still amazes me when no matter how many cities we work on, there's always some land within cities that haven't been developed for one reason or the other. Whether they were held in trust, it was a fairground. It was, there's some reason that the land just hasn't been optimized, or a lot of times the city's been holding it. They just haven't had they just been dreaming of this project that had a catalyst, and nothing has come along to do it. And so um, that's what's so exciting, that we are able to find these parcels and then put them together, talk with our city partners, and say, what do you want? They know the city, of course, a lot better than we do. They know what their city wants and needs, and and then what we try to do is take that feedback and then put it together into a programmatic way that between the stadium, apartments, hotels, restaurants, office, that we can put together the program for the development that has, an incredible amount of synergies. And so then we really work with all the other stakeholders besides our municipal partners, whether it be the youth soccer community, the business community, the philanthropic community. And so we work with them over the course of years to, again, put the pieces together, put the stakeholders together, make sure we have alignment across the spectrum in terms of what would be most beneficial for the community. And then, of course, there's all the technical side of development and the engineering, the land assembly, and the zoning, entitlements, and all that fun stuff that we spend a lot of our time on, which is so important. But because we're working on it for so long, and because we have engagement with our city partner, I think we found a really strong recipe for moving those as fast as possible. Given that they generate a lot of traffic, they generate a lot of parking needs, they generate a lot of noise and light and all these things. So we got to make sure that where we put them is conducive to our surrounding neighbors. But when we can have that dialogue from the beginning and over the course of years, that's where I think we were able to get everyone to kind of sing off the same hymn sheet. And at the end of the day, have a project that the city is really proud of, that creates a lot of jobs, that creates a lot of economic investment into the cities. And I think that's ultimately what makes for a successful project.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like because you guys are taking a longer term approach almost. You've said that a few times, like over 2, 3, 5, 7 years. So it's not like you're just knocking on somebody's door and saying, "Hey, we're going to put a stadium here." That probably wouldn't go over very well. But um, how does that work then with the surrounding areas? Do you guys almost have, say, you built that stadium in Greenville? There's a team in Greenville, right? So Greenville, and then you do you guys almost have a stake in everything else that goes around that? Like I'm just thinking in Philly, there's Xfinity Live, right? So that's I don't really know the ins and outs. I don't really have a real estate background, so I don't know how all that works. But I'm just wondering if you guys come in, you develop this land, and then there's bars and restaurants. You almost build this kind of district.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a stake in or say in like what restaurants go here, what's there? That
Yeah,
yeah,
you raised a really kind of critical part about our strategy, and the district concept, which is paralleled with the old ways of building a stadium, which you have a couple of these in Philadelphia, where you put a stadium, and then you put 50 to 100 acres of parking around them, and that was the way people built stadiums, right? Part of it, I think, was a way of kind of urban planning at the time, where they just that was the way stadiums were built. Part of it is in American football, for example, there's a tailgate culture where you bring your food to your car and you grill out before the game, and that's kind of part of the ritual. I think part of that's driven by the fact that you just had a lot of parking and there weren't any bars and restaurants around the stadium, and so that was how they are. And so what we think with soccer, which the game is different. So again, if you take football, you have 4 stoppages of play. The game could be 3 hours, it could be 5 hours, or baseball where there's 8 stoppages of play, compared to soccer where there's one. And so, and the again compared to baseball, the soccer demographic significantly younger. And so we really try to think about the whole fan journey. And so fans want to come before the game, and they want to go to a bar or restaurant, walk over to the game, and go back out. And so it's really key for us to have that whole district to make sure that the fan journey is very conducive for soccer, which again is just a different sport than baseball or football. And so the consumption patterns are different for food and drinks. And then again, certainly for fans, being able to just go back out afterwards is really important. So yes, we typically put together district developments rather than stadium developments for that reason. But also, the district enables us to create um, uh, part of our financing toolbox. Creates the tax increment, which is called a TIF, tax increment financing. So if you take land that's essentially earning nothing, and then you put an apartment or a hotel on it, now they're paying real estate taxes, and that increment versus zero typically is what can provide the bonding support for the stadiums. And so you kind of get a really paradoxical dynamic where the bigger the development, the effective less the stadium costs, because we have more bonding increment to support the stadium. And so that's enabled us to build larger stadiums that are commercial stadiums. And so that provides a better fan experience, provides more revenue for the team because you have just more structural revenue in terms of suites and premium. And they can use the stadium for more than just soccer, of course. And so that's where this, really strong marriage comes in, where it provides, billions of dollars of economic development to our city partners, provides hundreds or thousands of jobs, and you create a district that provides a great fan experience, which provides a great playing experience for all of our players because there's more fans of the game. So it's this really kind of synergistic, synergistic dynamic that makes all of it work.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard you saying that. I think in a different interview, you're like, once one kind of rises, then everything rises, basically, right? Like, so yeah, that's interesting. Like once the quality of the players goes up, it's like, all right, now the quality of probably coaches or general managers, just everything. It's all intertwined. So I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite stadium in the league? Like that, or in your opinion, the best experience for the fans?
Well, as the league, we love all of our teams equally, of course. Like our kids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
so,
can't. I don't want to sound clip that one. I'll throw you under the bus. But
yeah.
yeah,
But when you look at kind of the next generation stadiums, we just had a great stadium open in Rhode Island this
yeah,
year, where again when we first looked in Providence, we had an opportunity to go downtown Providence, but it was just for a stadium. The site couldn't, we couldn't have any other development around it. And then there's this opportunity in Pawtucket where we could do is a, 10 minutes or so outside of Providence, but we could really have a transformational impact. There's this amazing piece of property right along the river that just, again, needed a catalyst to get going. And the baseball team had just left, which was a couple miles away. And so we had an opportunity to help transform a city, to provide a great district, and build the type of stadiums that we're building now. And so when you look at, and then Louisville, I think one of our first pioneers that built a first class stadium. And then we're building them all around the country. So I think everywhere, what we're just really proud of is that economic development, which creates a big fan experience, a better playing experience, which creates a great league that ultimately, again, for our goal of being at parity, being in the peer group with our MLS and NWSL colleagues. And I think certainly by the end of 2025, when we have these new stadiums coming off the line, and they're going to be built over the next couple of years, we're certainly going to be in that Division One peer group, because we also announced our Division One on the men's side. Our women's Division One league just concluded this past weekend, and so I think we're there. And now we just have to keep building these great venues, which will keep growing the game, which is what our mission is at the USL.
yeah, totally. Yeah, and I'm sure the World Cup coming next year is going to help the cause just for soccer in general, right? In the United States, I mean, if you think about the rankings of sports in the United States, right? It's probably the NFL, I guess, is first, and then
Mhm.
NBA probably. I don't even know where soccer might be third, fourth, fifth. I don't know, but just having the World Cup is probably going to definitely drive a lot of eyeballs to the game, at least. So yeah, man. What and I know I want to let you run here so you don't miss a flight, but um, what about? So I heard you talking about just the revenue that the league drives itself, and I was surprised to hear that I think media is lower on that totem pole, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, um, what are some of those other revenue drivers? So it's media, I guess. Sports betting is probably coming into play here, but what are some other ways that the league and teams make money? I'm curious.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great question. So, what, how we've really thought about the economic opportunity at the league level, which is of course largely at the team level, is we were going to be very intentional about, I think, doing it the right way, which I'll describe why I'm saying that in a second. And the right way first is having really strong four wall revenue within the stadium. And so I'll pause there. In Europe and around the world, just because of how the game's developed, it's the number one sport in most countries, kind of without a close second. They have had huge media revenue for the longest time, which in my view, has made the teams really not have to be as efficient on a four wall basis because you have this large media revenue always that's backstopping it. And so for us, we thought, and we think and work with our teams on is if we can have great four wall revenue and then we've taken a very long term view on media where it wasn't about getting the highest short term dollars. We wanted to be on with blue chip partners, which were with ESPN, CBS, and NBC, and then work to build a passionate fan base. And so we said, okay, if we can build over the next 5 years 90 markets with very passionate fan bases, the media money will follow that rather than having kind of artificial ways. Like there are a lot of artificial ways to stimulate media interest, right? One, you can go behind paywalls. You can sign a lot of star players to try to drive that. But if we can provide, if we can really engage millions of fans, then in 5 years we can then turn on that media revenue, spigot, and go to our media partners and say, look, we can bring you millions of fans across the United States on both the men's and women's side, and we can have differentiation from our peer group with the MLS and NWSL, where we have promotion relegation, we have an interleague cup that every match has a consequence. Part of the American construct with the playoffs is great, but if you're not in the playoffs, then essentially the second half of the season doesn't matter. What we want to do is make sure that every match matters. And when you look around the world, the relegation matches are sometimes more viewed than the promotion matches, just because there's just so much on the line.
Those are the
To
ones where they would relegate teams
Yeah,
down to the next league, right? Okay, yeah,
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 exactly.
yeah.
And so then we have an interleague cup. This year's called the Jägermeister Cup, where teams and the divisions, play each other. And so what we're going to have different than our peer group with the MLS is we're going to have a lot of regional rivalries, and we're going to have promotion relegation. And so, and we're going to be very hyper focused in terms of our markets, as we discussed earlier. So I
Hmm.
think, and that will, when you can bring millions of fans that want to watch live sports every single week, um, our broadcast partners, that's what they want, and that's what they'll pay for. And so that's, we think, the right approach to developing it and having that long term view. The broadcast in from now till then is expensive. We produce a very high quality product, but I'm really glad our owners are really focused on that long term, and that if we can get the structural revenues right within the four walls, then and we can have a disciplined financial model, then when the media money comes in a couple years, we'll just be adding on to an already disciplined model. But you can see from our valuation growth, even before revenues and before transfer fees, which we can get into, which are unique to soccer. Our teams are being valued at over $100 million. So if we can then add that into our revenue mix, and sports have a superpower because they're valued on revenue, that will have a real exponential jump up for us on our team's revenues and our team's valuations.
Wait, so there are teams that are valued at over $100 million in the league.
Yeah, and
That's
and we're just
that's
getting
crazy.
started. And so I think
That's got to be dependent on the market too, right? I
well,
guess.
yes, it's depending on the market, but on the revenue, right? And so sports teams generally get valued at 8 to 10 multiple, and in our space, some of the more mature sports are valued a little less just because their revenues are more mature than ours, because ours are because we're not as mature, we have a higher year over year growth to our revenues, even though they're smaller than the NBA and NFL,
Mhm.
but on a nominal basis, but they're growing at a higher basis, and so that's where again we have really significant revenues from Team Co, and then which is different than our kind of real estate co, that's growing very significantly, and so I think as you mentioned now with the World Cup coming, it's going to provide this next level boost of interest in the sport, and you are already seeing now, which is really great. I think the private equity side of is really now solidified sports as part of the alternative asset mix, and
Mhm.
so that's bringing a lot of investment dollars into sports, and I think USL will be a primary beneficiary of that over the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I was listening to you on that Invest Like a Billionaire podcast, I think it was, and that's what they were talking a lot about is the how it is a legitimate alternative asset to invest in. So I'm sure all that money flowing in. And I think you might have compared it to like a tech startup that has a huge upside versus Google, right? You guys are at such this early stage
Yeah.
that there is so much growth potential. So yeah, we'll have to get into all that, but maybe that's for another time. So, um, Justin, man, thank you. I really appreciate you just talking about this. It really was not even on my radar. So you got a new fan in me for what that's worth. But I'd be curious, just as we start to wrap up, if you have any advice maybe to like younger athletes. So you were a college goalie at Duke. Younger athletes, I think the future of work, it's changing, right? I think a lot of younger kids, especially with social media, are just exploring maybe different avenues of and just getting curious about different things. So I'd be curious just from that perspective. Like, do you have any advice to a young, maybe college athlete that's figuring out what they want to do?
So as much as I love playing on the field, I find the business side of sports so much more rewarding and interesting. And so, big piece of advice I would have is, and talking our book a little bit, but I think it's true, is that if you want to have a career in sports, at USL, we're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of front office jobs available over the next 10 years. And so, even if at some point later you want to move like your favorite sports, football or baseball or basketball or hockey, I think, just going back to the Google analogy, um, the Yankees, the Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're just large organizations, right? And so to start at the bottom, move your way up, it's certainly possible, but you're working your way up through a large organization. I think going to a USL team, you could get more responsibility quickly work your way up and then make the lateral move over. At the end of the day, the business side of sports is very, very similar. And so, there's just a lot of you can cross train really easily, working in soccer and then working later in football, basketball, baseball, or hockey. And again, I think you can get a lot more responsibility quickly and move up a lot faster. And so I think sports it's an amazing industry to work in. And again, unlike a lot of industries, it's growing very quickly, and you can have not only a job but a career. And whether you're on the men's side or women's side, we call our teams clubs because most of them have more than one team within the club. You have the professional men's and women's, all the way down to the youth. And then we have our stadium anchored developments. And so there's really this holistic nature of experience that I think you can gain by working for a USL club. And one that, a big part of our mission is we want to bring in great executives. We want to develop great executives on both, men executives and women executives. And so if you're interested in sports, please consider the USL and our teams because I think we have a really exciting next 10 years. And I think we can, be part of your career journey in professional sports.
Sweet, man. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll link the USL career site on when I put this out there. But no, man, seriously, it's super interesting. We did not even really get into the women's side of it, but I'm sure that's expanding as well. Just with, like, you see, Caitlin Clark on the basketball side has just really brought a lot of attention and light on the women's side of sports too. So I'm sure there's a lot of growth on that from that perspective too. But Justin, man, awesome. Thank you very much. Safe travels. Maybe just a quick shout out to where folks could find the USL and you would be great.
Yeah, so we're obviously available on on our website, on LinkedIn. Myself or my team, depending on what area you're interested in on the real estate side, ownership side, career side. Please reach out to us. I think we're a big part of what we do is we want to bring great people into the USL ecosystem, and again, it's just a mission that we're really proud of to help grow the game on the men's side and the women's side. And I think we're executing on this mission, and it's USL is a very high growth company, and so there's always a lot going on. I think compared to a lot of other sports organizations that are largely just mature, we're growing at 30% plus a year, and so which means there's always a lot going on. But to me, I think that's what creates just this really high level of excitement and intrigue and buzz around the league because building something is a lot of fun, and we get to do it with a lot of great people. So it's really a pleasure to get to work with our amazing colleagues at the league office and around our teams.
Awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Justin Papadakis, thanks again for the time, man. Looking forward to getting this out there and sharing it with people and just getting into that soccer. Yeah, we'll definitely share this with some soccer fans too, which would be cool. So
appreciate me on and big fan of the podcast.
All right. Thanks, man.